Hey guys, and welcome to the Aprecity Summer Solstice Reflections Workshop. My apologies, that is a little bit late. I was dealing with a family emergency the end of this week, which you'll see actually kind of goes with a little bit of the themes of the summer solstice. But anyway, I appreciate your patience, and I'm so lucky to have so many amazing people around me and clients and everybody that was really understanding so I could go be at the hospital with someone that is very close to me. And this summer solstice, what I wanted to do with this video, this workshop, was to give you some reflection points for this weekend, for the 3 months ahead, because the difference between the summer solstice and our new moons and full moons that we usually do is that this is kind of the energetic themes of the summer. So the summer solstice is, it's kind of this dawning. It's the lightest day of the year. And so often, like we talk about during full moons, is that when the moon is that bright in full moon, when the sky is as bright as it is during the summer solstice, it shows us the areas of our life that we need to pay attention to. It illuminates things for us. So some of the things that are going to be illuminated that might have come up, boiled to the surface in a really big way, which kind of like I mentioned, with my family emergency this week was really, it was kind of, I guess funny, so to speak, after the fact that when I was looking at all these things I wanted to talk to you about, I was like, oh, wow, okay. No wonder all of that happened to really reassure what we need to do to take care of ourselves. So right now we're in Cancer. That's where the sun is right now. And so what that's showing us is, what do we need to do to nourish ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves? I was very conflicted, honestly, when everything was happening this week, because I had a really heavy client load the end of the week. And there was a lot of appointments and a lot of things that I had to cancel and rearrange and move that I wasn't, thrilled about doing. It was very stressful to do. It felt really heavy on me to do. But in that moment, I needed to do the thing that would be taking care of myself the most, right? And in that moment, the thing that would take care of myself would be to clear my schedule so I could be with my loved one. And that's a very dramatic example of it, but it can come in the form of different things. It can be, how are you getting enough sleep for yourself? Are you prioritizing your sleep? Are you fueling yourself properly? Are you giving yourself that space to heal, perhaps, if your heart is wounded? A lot of times, Cancer is like a mothering energy. It's a nourishing energy. It's an energy of, okay, replenishment. What do you need to do to plug in your own socket, right? To recharge your battery. And the reason why that is so important is because we are in this sun energy. We are in this time that's really go, go, go. Let's go after the big things. And you'll hear some of the other themes that are really asking you to go out there and be the warrior and fight for that thing you want, fight for those things in your lives. And whenever we're living that big life, whenever we're really going for it, the kind of balancing out of that is always that there are going to be times when we have challenges. There are going to be times when we face resistance. There's going to be times when we feel like we're pushing a boulder up a hill. And that is something that comes with living a courageous life, that comes with living a big life, that comes with really going for it in life, right? And so what Cancer is letting us know is like, okay, know what your care package is. Know what you specifically need to recharge, refuel, and come back. There's that quote that success is being able to move from failure to failure without any loss of enthusiasm. And I think it's a very true quote because, I see that a lot in my clients where they're faced with resistance, they're faced with a challenge, they're faced with, maybe a failure of something that's going on in their life. And the difference, the evolution that happens as you grow and, become more successful in your business or become more adept at navigating this stuff is that you don't let it take you down as much, right? Or it takes you down, right? You wake up, that thing happens, and you're like, oh, right? It takes you down, and then you get right back up. And then, and that process is not an accident. That's not something, oh, some people are born with that and other people aren't. I really believe that the reason I can have, let's say, a stronger get up and go in between challenges and in between resistance and failures and stuff like that is because I've created systems and a toolbox that allows me to get back going, right? It's not that you have days where you wake up and you're like, I don't want to do anything and I hate life and what's the point or whatever. And I don't know, and this feels so hard and this feels so challenging, or I don't know why this is not working, or I don't know why they said no to that, right? We all have days like that. And I think sometimes we feel like when we're going through it, we feel like we're super special and like nobody else has ever had this kind of day. And nobody else has to really deal with the challenges we're dealing with. And I've actually found in my life and my career that it's actually been really healthy for me to acknowledge that everybody actually has these challenges, that in fact, I am not special. And the thing I think that makes someone more special, or something that makes me more special, so to speak, is that I've learned how to deal with that. That it's like, okay, this happened this week. This happened this week. I'm behind on clients. I'm behind on emails. I'm behind on my Aprecity workshop. I have a lot of things to do. Okay, let's like focus. What can we do? Maybe I cancel some plans for tomorrow so I can have more of a work day. I let myself sleep in today. I slept in pretty late today. I'm doing the things that I need to do to take care of myself while fighting that good fight, so to speak. So that's a lot of what the Cancer theme is how do we take care of ourselves if we're going into battle for things, if we are really being courageous. And sometimes you think about that as physical exertion, but it's not really just physical exertion. If you think about it, think about the amount of energy it takes you to do something courageous. If you've ever had, what's coming to mind for me is the first time I used to be a singer when I was younger, a musical theater person. And when I was in like high school, I think it was, Nordstrom's was doing a talent show. And it was like this big Nordstrom's in the mall with like all five floors. So like look down on the center, and in the center was the stage where we would sing. So anyway, so I sang at this show in Nordstrom's, and I had never been more nervous in my life. I was so scared. It was such a courageous thing for me to do. I was putting myself out there on a big level, and my whole body was vibrating. It was shaking, and it was exhilarating, and it was fantastic, and it went really well. And it was, something that I was so glad I did after I did it, but I was exhausted, right? And from the outside, it didn't really look like, it was maybe a 5-minute performance of a song. It didn't look super physically taxing. But whenever we do something like that, it actually is really physically taxing because we're flexing our courage muscles. We're putting ourselves out there. And when we're putting ourselves out there, a whole system is going buzzing, right? So really being able to say, oh, wow, I need to be able to go home and take a bath. I need to, if I'm going to be sending out those emails that I'm kind of nervous about sending that I know are going to push me to that next level, then maybe I need to stop working at 4 and go take a walk and watch the sunset with my dog, right? And this season is going to help you balance that dance, because some of the other themes are also going to make you more aggressive than ever. And in general, solar energy, we think about the sun versus the moon, right? So the moon energy, the lunar energy, is emotional. It's more of the feminine, so to speak, right? Where it's a receiving, an intuitive energy. And sun energy, when we're celebrating the solstice energy, is action. It's masculine, it's structure, it's creating. So we'll go into a little bit of that and how that can be part of your reflection this weekend as we enter the summer solstice. Because like I said before, these themes are for the next 3 months. So usually it's like 3 days before, 3 days after. This is your summer. This is the themes of the summer. So it'd be good for you to have them as guiding lights in your journey, for you to come back to maybe once a month, for you to come back to maybe as we do the moon workshop, to just check back in with them. So number 2, one of the things that goes along with that kind of illumination and that spotlight that the brightness kind of pours out onto our life is that it's going to let us know what old patterns are ready to be healed. And so once again, this is a really conscious, good thing for you to know that's going on, because if you know it's going on, you're going to be able to navigate it better. So for instance, you might be presented with certain challenges that feel like deja vu, that feel like Groundhog's Day, where you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've been in this situation before. And so a good question to stop and ask yourself, if that does happen, if you're like, oh God, I feel like this is Groundhog's Day, I feel like this is deja vu. Stop, ask yourself, okay, how did I navigate this situation last time? And what might be an alternate route? Because here's the thing why I say, how did I navigate this last time and what could be an alternate route is because it's not necessarily you asking what could be a more effective route. Because here's the thing, we don't do things that we innately think are stupid or we innately think are ineffective, right? We do things from a logical perspective on some level. For us to do something, we have made a reason why that makes sense. So oftentimes, if we go to that reasoning, logical place, we will do the thing we did last time. But if we just ask the question, okay, how did I navigate this last time? How can I navigate this in a different way, right? That might be more effective. So for instance, and I talk about this a lot with my practical magic. It's like some of us have different tendencies. And it doesn't mean that all of this, right? It doesn't mean that any solution is bad, any solution is good. What it does mean is that there are some that are going to be more effective for us. And there are some that are going to perpetuate a pattern that we don't want to perpetuate. And often just by switching it up, right? So for instance, let's say you are, let's say you never do spontaneous things. Let's say you never do spontaneous things, you're super conservative with your money, all sorts of things. And, and that same friend that always has these awesome trips that they're going on is like, hey, do you want to come away for the weekend and go to Ojai with me or whatever it is? And you're like, I don't know, I have all these things to do this weekend, all this stuff, right? And then you're like, all right, well, how much is it going to be? Like, what's the deal? Let me know. Let me think about it. And you're thinking about it and you're like, wow. I feel like this happens every time. I get asked to go to the weekend. I end up looking at my calendar. And I'm like, oh, I should probably do work, or I shouldn't spend that much money or whatever. I say no. And then I always end up like not really doing enough stuff at home that I feel like would have been worth skipping the weekend for or whatever, right? And so this time, maybe it's when that opportunity arises, taking it as an option to try the other route. To say, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go. I'm going to see what that is. It's, maybe it's something in your romantic relationship. So you're like, you know what? I never asked him to go to do this with me, but you know what? Maybe why not? Let me, instead of brooding and being upset that he's not guessing that I already know I want to do that, let me take that initiative. Maybe it's like, you know what? I keep on saying that I want to get in shape, and I keep going to the gym and it's just not working. Maybe I try something else. Maybe this weekend I try kickboxing, right? So it's really just looking for those habitual patterns. What are the things that you feel like you're kind of going in circles with that you're just not having effectiveness with? And really looking at them, being, how can I heal this? How can I, for once and for all? And sometimes all it takes is one time going the other way, going the less autopilot direction, right? I almost said the less intuitive, but that's not really true. It's what happens is with these patterns is we get on autopilot. It's not intuition. We get into autopilot, so we automatically think that this is the way you handle it, right? And you've seen this with people. A really common place that I see this in people is when it comes to their diet, right? They see the scale go up a little bit, and most people have an autopilot reaction of a certain diet. So sometimes I know one of my girlfriends, the scale goes up and she's cuts carbs for a week. Another my girlfriend, the scale goes up and all of a sudden she's intermittent fasting again. And I'm not saying anything's are bad. Any of these patterns are, like I said, they're not good or they're bad, but it's noticing that. So if this is a cyclical pattern, let's say every month or so, the scale goes up, you do a juice fast, and then you get back to your normal eating, the scale goes up 2 months later, you do another juice fast, right? It's kind of like, okay, could we want to break that pattern? Maybe we just want to stay in a good place. Maybe we need to look at, instead of doing a juice cleanse, maybe it's looking at the way we're eating and figuring out a way that we can eat that's sustainable. So we're just like always eating healthy in a sustainable way, and the scale doesn't go up and we can whatever. So finding those areas in your life that where are you going in circles. And the beautiful thing is that the solstice is going to make them pretty obvious, and you're going to have them, and they're going to be coming up again. And they're going to be a great opportunity for you to figure things out. And so it could be challenging. It could be frustrating. And that's, again, why you need to know how to nourish yourself, why you need to know how to take care of yourself, and why I'm in this video really sharing this with you, because I want you to have fun with it. I want you to think about it as like trying a new thing. And it's like allowing yourself to be in the game of it, right? Allowing yourself to really think about it in a creative strategy way and be like, I always do it this way. What would be a fun way to do it differently? You know, one of my clients is dealing with some money stuff right now. And so it's like, okay, well, this is a pattern of mine where I like make a lot of money, then I spend a lot of money, and then I don't have money, and then I freak out, and then I have to make more money, but then I spend more, and then I, you know, whatever. How can we nip that in the bud? What do you tend to do every time that is creating this pattern to go back in a circle? And maybe it's that instead of creating, you know, in that thing, you know, the thing that comes to me is instead of creating a sustainable income stream, you are creating kind of like just big hit projects that aren't actually keeping you that consistency you need. And then maybe there's also the expense thing in that. But this is a beautiful time to look at it. Don't judge it. Don't get mad at yourself for it. Try not to. And just try to look at it as a time for, wow, okay, let this be the season that I finally break that pattern that is not working for me anyway, right? All right, third thing first, we have Leo in Venus. So Leo in Venus is a very, the word that was coming up to my head was like a torturous energy, but perhaps that's extreme. It's torturing out of desire. So it's like the thing that you want it so bad. You want it uncontrollably bad. And the good part about that is going to really help you get into action. It's going to help you be courageous. It's going to help you fight the good fight, so to speak, for that thing that you're really, really hungry for in your life. And then the obvious kind of negative side of that is that, yes, it can be challenging. It can be torturous. It can be frustrating because you're going to be very present to not having it, because you want it. And, you know, when we talk about, as we talk about on here and, you know, with my clients, the energy of manifesting, the energy of magnetism, it's like you already have to be in the energy of I have it. It's good. I'm good, right? For it to come to you, that energy of confidence, right? It's those things that, like, you know, one of my girlfriends said to me about something that, something exciting that's happening for me. Before we had actually like you know, had the official contract or whatever, she was like, oh, Cash, don't want to jinx it. And I was like, I'm not jinxing it. It's done. It's happening. And my energy is very clear that it's happening and it's good and it's good. And actually the energy of, you know, fear and not wanting to jinx it and keeping it closed and all of that stuff, it's actually a fear-based energy. So it pushes it away from me. So me actually already being in the celebration of it is only further confirming the fact that it's already happened and it's happening, you know? And so again, that's why I say this, because that thing that you are deeply desiring, that thing that you really want, I think the energy that we're going to play with right now is, how can you act as if you already have it? How can you feel as if you already have it? So for instance, if it's, you know, if you're wanting to get to that next level of your career, a lot of the women that I work with one-on-one, that's part of our journey together, is they're, you know, starting their businesses and they want to take that next leap, or they're wanting to leave their corporate jobs and start their own businesses, and they're just wanting to kind of take it up a notch to the next level. And that's, you know, a lot of some of the one-on-one work I do. And one of the things that comes up with that and how we become magnets with that is that we start operating on that level before we, on the third dimension kind of world, actually get there. So if you want to be a more influential person in your sphere, start talking and start acting and start looking at your business and your life from that perspective of, I'm a more influential person. If you want to have a great romantic relationship, start looking at your life from, how would I feel if I already knew that the perfect partner was on its way? How would I know? How would I change? How would the way maybe my apartment looked, how would the way maybe I organized my time, I took care of myself, you know, how might all of these things change if I was already in a romantic relationship? Or if I knew, you know, that like another little trick of the mind is good, is be like, if I knew it was guaranteed to come in a week, right? I think this is a great game to play for yourself. If you're looking for like a promotion or more money or, you know, a relationship or a baby or anything like that you're trying to attract, is asking yourself, if I knew, kind of like ordering it on Amazon. I know I've given that analogy a lot, but it's my favorite when it comes to manifesting. If you put in that order for, you know, put in that order for whatever you want on Amazon and it was coming in a week, what would you have to do this week to get ready for it? And so if, let's say, you're ordering up a, you know, an interview with Oprah on Super Soul Sunday, what do you have to do this week to get ready for it? Because if you're real with yourself, if that was actually happening this week, you'd be like working like nobody's business. You'd make sure your website was set up. You'd make sure your newsletter was set up. You'd make sure that you had pitches ready to go out to agents if you needed to. If you were trying to get a book or whatever, you'd make sure you'd have products on your site. You'd make sure your whole about me was right. Your services were right. Anything that you needed, you would have it locked and loaded. You might also get your hair done. You might also get your nails done. You might also make sure you go to the gym every day this week. You know, you'd probably make sure you're getting sleep. You do all this stuff in order to be in the space of the kind of person that would inhabit that I'm having an interview with Oprah this next Monday, right? So that is the space of turning that incredible desire into being a magnet for it, right? Into really meeting it there, right? It's like, you know, I work with women. And so on the other side of the spectrum, when we're not talking about businesses, oftentimes this is romance. And what I hear all the time is that they've heard from so-and-so and this person and this coach and this video maybe this video, who knows, this book, that they should write a list of all the things that their dream man has and write a list of all of their deal breakers and all this stuff. And, you know, why I don't think it's a horrible thing to do at all. And the question I always love to ask is like, that's great. I'm so glad that you want a 6'3", brown hair, blue eyes, finance guy that makes at least like mid 6 figures, that already owns his house, that's ready to settle down, has a good relationship with his parents. Like, wow, I'm so glad you have a really clear picture of how amazing this guy is. And now I want to genuinely ask you, if you met this guy tomorrow, do you think you're the kind of woman that he wants to marry? And I don't mean that, like, we're all innately beautiful and valuable and loving and amazing and worthy of love. I don't mean that in a shitty way. I mean that in a, are you actually at that same level of what you want to call in? Because oftentimes we want him to have all this shit together. And there we are, we're like, we don't even, you know, we're like completely, like, we're not taking care of ourselves. It's like, well, I'm so glad that it's a requirement that he has a 6-pack, but when's the last time you went to the gym? If fitness is such a value to you and you want a man that also mirrors that value, which is perfectly acceptable, then where's your action on it? And I find it to be, again, it's like a much faster way to manifest the thing that you're ready to call in and magnetize a lot of amazing things along the way. Because, hey, from continuously asking myself that question, oh, wait, who's the man I'm ready to call in? And then what kind of woman do I have to be to really feel like I'm meeting him where he's at? Has been a really juicy way to up-level myself, right? To be like, well, you know what? For that man that I'm super excited that's, you know, coming on Monday, that I ordered on Amazon already, I want to make sure that, like, I have brand new, nice, clean bedding. I'm not going to use the bedding that my grandma sent me 5 years ago. Oh, wow, you know, maybe I should clean up that, like, large growing pile of laundry next to my bed. You know, you know, maybe I will, I'll throw out those leftovers from 3 weeks ago in the fridge. And it's really funny. It's just little things like that, but you're energetically upgrading yourself, and you're also putting yourself in a place of expectation, of confident, excited expectation, instead of a place of pining and pining and desiring and feeling lack and feeling like it's not here yet. When we get into that productive energy, which again is that solar energy, when we get into that productive solar energy, and we have a lot of it this summer. That's why when we think about the summer season, we think of it as like a more social, a busier season. There's more energy for us to work with. In winter, we feel less of that, right? We have less sun. So we literally go slower. It's more of a hibernation time, right? So in the summer, we have this kind of like ball of cosmic energy to work with, and it really wants us to take massive leaps in our lives, which is also, again, kind of ironic, right? How oftentimes in the summer, that's when kids are off of school. That's when we actually do less work in general, and we do more socializing, which is fine. But you can really use it for using that energy to upgrade your life overall. And so the last thing is that you're going to deal with being uncomfortable a lot, because some of the big things that you have that Leo and Venus desire for that you're thinking about, and that's, again, why the old patterns thing is so important, why learning how to nourish yourself is so important. Some of these things are going to be really big, like soul destiny things. And when our heart is activated at that level, when it desires something so deeply, it really is because it's part of our destiny, so to speak. It's aligned with our purpose. It's aligned with what our soul's here to do in the world. So whenever that happens, you might be really freaking scared. You might be super uncomfortable. You might be swimming in uncharted waters. And to just know that, and that's okay. And again, that's why it's important to have that reboot plan. That's why it's important to say, wow, okay, it could be an email, it could be a meeting, it could be an ask of a friend. You're like, hey, can you intro me to this person? It could be, going to do stand-up or an open mic night. It could be taking that job interview in a completely different industry, whatever that thing is. It could be randomly, going on a blind date or going up to a guy at a bar and saying hi, doing something that's really out of your comfort zone that you feel very called to do, that you feel intuitively called to do. And just in the nature of that, it's going to be uncomfortable because you're pushing yourself to do something you've never done before, right? You're like, okay, this is how I've been doing things lately, and I want to do it differently. And so really asking yourself, okay, and giving yourself that, I'm getting hits as I'm saying this, and I'm just like, wow, okay. So some of the big things in your life, some of the big systems that you're working with, right? The way you run your business, the way you run your relationships, they might be asking for a change. And, it's funny, I was just talking with a friend about this earlier today about relationships where, I have a guy friend of mine who's a relationships therapist kind of thing, right? And one of the things he does is he regularly, on a weekly basis, checks in with his girlfriend and asks, how am I doing? And they kind of grade each other. I think on a 1 to 10 scale, he's like, how connected did you feel to me this week? How happy did you feel in our relationship? How did you feel like I showed up as a boyfriend or whatever, something like that. And it was one of these things where like he instituted it. He was like, I want to do this every Friday when we go out to dinner. Let's just check in with ourselves. This way we handle things before they get out of proportion. And I think it's brilliant, and it's a different way of doing relationship. And a lot of people don't, relate to that. But if you've been doing something, let's say you are in a relationship right now and you've been in a relationship and maybe it's not going great, or maybe there's some, it's just not feeling like it used to be. You institute a new system and it creates the structure for something to really be held inside of it. And so that is that sun and that solar energy is, what is the structure? What is this structure that we can create here that's going to allow this feminine energy of creation, of magnetism to really flow into it? And in a relationship, it's the same thing. It's like, how do we create a structure that works? I have an old mentor of mine used to tell me that she had a thing that her and her husband had to have sex twice a week. And at first when she told me, I was like, that is such, I hate that. It's not spontaneous. It's not like romantic. And she was like, actually it is though, because it's a promise we make to each other. So it always happens. So we never like go a week without it. So that it allows us to not worry about it, or, you know, neither one of us are thinking like, oh no, like I've gone too long without sex, or who's going to do what or whatever. We just know that now that is a structure that we have, that this is that we do. And I don't think they actually like schedule out the exact days, but they just make a point to figure out 2 times during the week where it can happen. And sure, sometimes it's more spontaneous than others. And other times it might be a little bit more like playing Tetris with their schedules to see when it works out. But when we create those systems, it's the same thing with, you know, working out and eating, right? For myself, I know, okay, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work earlier in the morning, so I don't get to make my spin classes. So those are usually times I try to make a nighttime spin class. I know Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I love going to work out first thing in the morning because I can do that with my schedule. And I don't work on the weekends. And I have this, you know, I have my schedule, and what my schedule allows me to do is be flexible with it, because I know all the times I can see it. So if something happens and I have to miss it one day a week, it's not a big deal because I get right back onto it because I have that structure, right? And same thing with food, same thing with work, all of that, right? So this summer is going to help us to create those structures that not only allow us to be more courageous and get out of our comfort zone and go for that thing that we really, really, really desire in our lives, but also create the nourishment structures as well, because that is the structure. So for me, sometimes it's like most of the time during the week, I'm not going out. If I'm going to go out at all, I'm having a dinner with someone, and then I'm home pretty early, because my structure during the week and my nourishment kind of masculine holding of myself is that I try to take a bath every night, is that I like to read for like at least a half an hour by candlelight and my salt lamps before I fall asleep. And that's what I need to wake up the next morning and do it all over again. And so finding those structures, and that's something you're going to have to be an active, conscious creator of. So that could be a fun experiment for you to do this weekend, or to keep in mind for the next week ahead, and set a date for it. And really look, and these 4 reflection questions, perhaps take some time today or tomorrow and just journal about them and see what's coming up for you around them right now. If you live by the beach or by a park or something, this would be a beautiful activity to do in the sunshine, to just be in the beauty of the summer season and journal about that. And so just a refresher, one question is, what are the systems I need to nourish myself to be able to rise to the challenges, to be able to fight the good fight and reboot myself? What are the things that I can make sure I have going on in my life that replenish me? And then 2 is, what are the old patterns that are coming up that I want to look at differently? And if you find specific ones, really asking yourself, okay, what is my process with this usually, and how can I change that? What would be different, right? And the next one is, again, maybe noticing, what is that heart's desire? What is that heart's desire, and what actually would I do if I knew I was getting in a week? What would I do next week if I knew I was getting in a week? Great question. And last but not least, again, is, you know, what are those structures? What are the structures that I can create in my life that are going to hold me into this new level, that are going to support me and allow me to kind of flow through them, allow me to receive? What are the structures I can create that are going to hold me to perhaps this new, uncomfortable, courageous level I'm being asked to step up to? Because they will. Because again, I really wish I could send every client of mine this in like a daily voice memo where it's like, good morning. This is your daily reminder that most of us wake up with resistance. Most of us wake up having to, you know, fight fear, or, you know, rally our courage. And some of us might still end up at the computer and be like, have to fight our courage even more, right? And it's okay. It's okay. And knowing that it's okay and it's comfortable, and actually doing the things that grow us. You know, one of my favorite examples of this is with Instagram stories. I still remember when Instagram stories came out, and I was like, oh man, I know what this means. This means Instagram stories is going to have to become a part of my life, because it's my business, and that's how I communicate with my audience. And now I do them a lot. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I Instagram story mostly everything. during my day. And I've had clients in the past who are starting coaching businesses and online businesses and stuff like that be like, I'm just not like you. I feel so awkward on Instagram story. I don't like it. I don't want to be storying every day. And I literally laugh so hard. And I always tell them, and I'm like, do you think it wasn't super uncomfortable when I first started? Do you think I didn't think I was like absolutely insane? Like as I'm holding the thing like this, telling someone about, some thought I had today, you think I wasn't, self-conscious or feeling awkward or feeling uncomfortable? You think I absolutely loved it when I was doing it? No, it was so uncomfortable. To be honest, I hated it. But my deep desire to be able to spread my message, to be able to communicate with my audience, to be able to connect with the women that I know I can help on a really deep level, far surpass my own little self-conscious shit, sorry for my friend, about being on Instagram stories. Same thing with YouTube Live, same thing with Facebook, same thing, I went out on a date with a guy and he watched some of my YouTube videos and he was like, wow, I was impressed that you're just like able to do that. And he was like, I don't think I could ever do YouTube videos because I'd be so self-conscious. And it was so funny because it was like, oh, of course. Like I'm still self-conscious when people I date watch my shit. But I'm like, what's the other option? The other option is not express myself. The other option is not do what I love. The other option is not utilize all of the tools that I have in service of the thing that I feel like I'm here to do, right? And so oftentimes when we are on purpose, when we are aligned with our mission, we're going to have to do some stuff that's uncomfortable. We're going to have to get over some of our fears. We're going to have to be able to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable. In fact, all of the time. If it feels super comfortable, you're probably not doing the big juicy thing that you're set out to do, right? And now, of course, all of that stuff I'm much more comfortable with it now. But I wasn't in the beginning of starting any of it. And even now, today, there's always a new level of uncomfortability of, something else comes out and it's like challenging myself. Oh, okay, can I rise to that? Can I do that? Am I willing to put myself out there in that way? And that's part of the juicy joy of life. And so I think this summer is going to be epic. I think this summer is going to be a time of massive growth, lots of forward progress, and it's not going to be, such a walk in the park, so to speak, because you're going to feel yourself flexing your muscles. You're going to feel yourself being vulnerable and doing the courageous thing and going out there on a limb. But it can be really juicy if you enjoy it. It can be really juicy if you keep your eye on that prize and you know that it's all for a higher good, and you're growing every step of the way. Every failure, every awkward moment, every time you show up and you beat that resistance and you get it done, it feels so freaking good. And that momentum is what keeps you going. That momentum is what makes you get comfortable with it, makes it just you. And then once you're comfortable, it's like, okay, that's the level you're on, right? So I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it gave you a lot of stuff to think about. If you want a one-on-one session with me, if you want to dive deep and explore this a little bit more and have me help you come up with some very specific strategies on how to utilize this for your particular situation, I am happy to do that. Check out my mentoring page on my website, just cassandrabodek.com/mentoring. And as always, I'll see you next Friday. Bye, guys.